Everybody smile at the camera. Good morning. Welcome to Radio Row in Los Angeles, California. I'm Kayla Bradham here with co-host Roy Kessel with two amazing guests. Bright and early, the early bird gets the worm, and we're talking about getting food for hungry kids today. Chef Tim and Alexis Glick, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having
Here.
Well, we appreciate you both taking the time to jump on with us this morning. We know there's a big event coming up with Taste of the NFL on Saturday, and we want to learn more about that. But I think it's great for everybody to learn how that event came about and a little bit more about Gen Youth and how those events merged together.
Well, for us at Gen Youth, we were very fortunate in the early stages of COVID to essentially get a phone call to see if we wanted to take over the Taste of the NFL, to which we said absolutely, because at the start of COVID, as many of you know, we saw a record rate of food insecurity among our nation's youth in America. And for an organization like Gen Youth, whose role is to create healthier school communities and who is really tackling the issue of food insecurity during COVID, we recognized that if we had a platform like the Taste of the NFL, which is the purpose-driven event at Super Bowl, and we could call attention to this, we could really do remarkable things. And here we are 2 years later, gearing up for our second Taste of the NFL.
Well, I know that event has grown remarkably over the time that it's been in existence, and we had the opportunity to attend in Miami. Tim, talk a little bit about how and why you got involved. There's chefs from every NFL city that participate, and what it takes to get there.
Well, as Alexis said, right at the start of COVID, when she took over the event, and I was lucky enough to get a call from her, I was just elated about it, and to be a part of something so great and such a great organization who's in charge of it for an organization. And so for me, the Tasty NFL means a lot of things. It's, obviously cooking is my passion. It's how I built my life. It's how I take care of my family. And I've been fortunate enough to make sure that my kids get fed all the time. So to be able to have an opportunity to make sure other people's kids get fed is a real honor, quite frankly. And so, but the Tasty NFL is also a lot of fun, right? So as we get into the seriousness of it, while we're raising money, it's great. We don't want to forget about the fact that I also, selfishly like throwing a giant party for a lot of fun people and still have a great time, raise money, and take care of business, which is really great. A great opportunity.
So I've been in this situation. I've been on the receiving end as a single parent with 8 children living in Milwaukee. I know what the other side looks like. What is the impact of the work you're doing? How many kids are you helping, or what is your goal for this coming year, guys?
So the impact is the number one thing, right? At the end of the day, the role behind the Taste of the NFL is to leave a legacy. To leave a legacy here in Los Angeles, in which we're supporting Los Angeles Unified School District, which is the second largest school district in America, one of the most impoverished, and one of the highest free and reduced meal populations, which means that kids here need the school building. It's a lifeline. And right now, LA Unified School District is serving more meals to more kids in more day parts than ever. But that is not just the case in LA, that is the case across the country. So all of the proceeds of what we raise for Taste of the NFL is going to support LA Unified School Districts, but also going to support the other 31 NFL club team markets. And what we're doing is at Gen Youth, we created an End Student Hunger Fund at the start of COVID. That fund has received $45 million in grant requests already. We've to date given upwards of $15 million in grant requests to schools across the United States. But what schools are doing is they're using those grants to purchase the equipment and the resources that they need to deliver those meals. That is why we're doing what we're doing, and we hope that on Saturday we will have the most successful Taste of the NFL ever because of Tim and our incredible list of chefs and NFL players who are showing up to do this for kids, which is amazing.
I absolutely love it. Tim, what are you cooking?
I'm doing birria tacos.
We're coming to Tim's house for the NFL game.
That's right. Goat birria tacos, as a matter of fact. So very traditional goat birria, crispy but also chewy, nice textured tacos, and some beautiful consomme to go with it. But really, more importantly, we're, Andrew and I, we always have a competition. We do Taste the NFL. And I don't know what he's bringing this year, but I'm going to find out soon enough. He wouldn't tell me, which I'm a little upset about.
Maybe we can get it out of him this afternoon.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe
work
he'll
on
give
that,
it up.
please.
Because I tell you what.
You
I'm ready.
surprise us,
Yeah,
right?
I'm ready to get it down with him.
You should see these guys. So the thing we decided to do when we took over the Taste of the NFL is we said, let's democratize access to this incredible foodie event. Let's bring it into people's homes. It happened to be that we were living in COVID and that in Tampa last year, the shutdown was greater than it is obviously this year. But we said, let's do both. So not only are we hosting an event on Saturday here in LA, but we're also filming a 1-hour broadcast that's going to air on the NFL Network in the hour leading into the Super Bowl. And you have to see these guys behind the camera when they are cooking and going toe to toe with one another. It is such a great show. Last year we did it. We live streamed it across the United States, and it was just a blast. So they were throwing balls.
Yeah,
and cooking.
It's now
sandwiches
the
and
Iron
whatnot.
Chef of the NFL. Is that what we're doing?
Oh, it is. Let's put it in
Remember that, so we just make fun of each other the whole time.
So, guys, I have a question for you, and it comes from the parent perspective, right? I know how hard it is just for me to make cold lunches and get the kids out of the door on time. And I know how passionate you guys are about healthy food. And we know that a lot of the food in the government programs is primarily carbs. As parents, as educators, as chefs, we care about the health of kids, right? What are you guys doing in general to just make sure that those foods are getting more of the nutritional balance that they need to sustain themselves throughout the day, especially when we know that they might not be getting a meal at home?
Well, I would just tell you from our perspective, because we work with 75,000 U.S. public schools, and we work hand in glove with the federal government and the state governments, is everything we do is about what used to be the food pyramid, but it's the plate, right? Which is making sure that there are multigrains, fruits, vegetables, and dairy are a big part of what we make sure kids are getting access to. So we are always looking for how can we provide the resources that help schools serve healthier meals. But let me just quickly give you one important statistic. For every school lunch that's served in America, they sell those lunches, they provide those lunches at a 50-cent deficit. For every breakfast served, it's an 85-cent deficit. So just to give you a sense of how under-resourced schools are, that gives you an idea of they're serving more meals to more kids than ever, and yet they are so under-resourced right now because basically they are a lifeline for more kids than ever. So when you think about what the school building is doing in the community, and I think this is a mom of 8, I'm a mom of 4, he's got 3 of his own. When we say it's a lifeline, it's truly a lifeline. So I think parents right now recognize not only did schools stay open to feed kids throughout COVID and today are serving more meals, but they did that with families as well. And that's partially why they're running these deficits, is they're not turning anyone away. And we believe that is why we do what we do, is to help them even more.
Yeah, and a lot of chefs, a lot of my friends did that same thing. During COVID, we would do school lunches, even though the schools were shut down. The parents and things come by our corporate office, and we literally fed meals out the back door for lunch every day to kids, because that was their meal of the day, right? So when people recognize that there's a deficit, which most people don't, they're like, oh, school meals are not great. They're not great. They're forgetting the fact that we need a little more money just to get the schools even. And then once they get even, we can start concentrating on doing, just a meal is great, and while we want to have balance in the meal and want to do all that we can to provide nutrition the best that we can, the first thing we need to do is get people fed. And that's our number one goal, is make sure at least everybody has a meal every day.
Alexis, you talked about a $45 million in grant requests. That's a big pot to fill. Talk a little bit about where, between Gen Youth and Taste of the NFL, you get the funding in terms of how things come together.
Well, for this year, and honestly through COVID, one of our biggest partners has been our friends and family at Frito-Lay and the PepsiCo Foundation. They have been extraordinary. They have been by our side since day one. They were one of the first phone calls I made. So number one, they've been by our side. Number two, America's dairy farmers. They work with us in the communities, literally down to the school building. They have stepped up in the most remarkable ways. And then here in California, we have our friends at California Blue Shield who are supporting us, SAP. I mean, we have dozens of corporations and business leaders. This is a true example of a public-private partnership. I say to folks, 1+1+1 is 4 greater than 3. No one of us can do it alone. As Tim knows, there's no one I won't call to beg and plead for help. That's kind of what I do. And so
She's very persuasive.
I'm sort of persuasive. But this is one of those occasions where even as we sit here and we look at a $30 million deficit of funding, literally if you look down to the school building of where those requests are coming from, rural, urban, suburban, everywhere across the country. It is unbelievable. So the reality is it may be a $30 million deficit. Every dollar counts because it's moving the needle. And the truth is our schools need more help than ever.
So you guys, just to verify, Taste of the NFL, to get those tickets or to make a donation to Gen Youth, visit tasteofthenfl.com. I'm taking a moment to shout out the sponsors, Frito-Lay and Pepsi-Cola. I know you guys couldn't do this without their help, and they've been wonderful here on Radio Row, supplying us with all of the drinks that we need to keep going as well. In closing, the number one reason people should get their tickets to Taste of the NFL is because
they're going to see you.
Is it me? Come eat some great food, enjoy some great people. I say this with a lot of confidence. The ticket to the Taste of the NFL is $1,000, where you can spend $20,000 on a ticket to the actual Super Bowl. You come to the Taste of the NFL, you have more players, have better food, and have a lot better time. That's just the honest truth. And you get to help us out without cost.
I love it. Guys, my name is Kayla Bradham here on Radio Row with Roy Kessel. Roy, take us out.
Thank you to everybody for joining us, and all of viewers and listeners. We appreciate your time. Alexis, Tim, thank you so much for joining us. On behalf of Kayla Bradham and the Sports Philanthropy Network, this is Roy Kessel signing off from Radio Row at Super Bowl 56. Please remember to live generously. Thank you.